Okay, so negative feedback has many different. So negative feedback, there's many negative feedback loops and mechanisms in your body to maintain homeostasis. Then you'll hear a lot about that when I get to the endocrine system in MD4. But what is, so if there's a negative, there must be positive feedback, right? So what is positive feedback? Well, think about positive feedback. It does exist in the human body, but it's compared to negative feedback, which is pretty much everywhere in your body. Again, homeostasis, negative feedback, very important. But positive feedback is more about exaggerating a response. So here are things that with positive feedback, the signal starts to amplify itself instead of like that little box where it's turning itself off. Instead of turning its own original stimulus and signal off, it's going to start to increase it and amplify the strength of that signal. And it typically ends with a major event. So things like the clotting cascade with all the clotting factors, and you're going to have a lot of fun with that. And the Ferguson reflex, we will cover that in MD4. This is referring to uterine contractions that happens during labor. So think about positive feedback. What's another way? I don't know if you've ever seen those old cartoons, like the Looney Tunes cartoons, but when they take a cartoon character kind of takes a snowball and rolls it down the hill, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, that snowball isn't starting to regulate its size. It's just picking up more snow. As it gets bigger, it starts to pick up more snow, and it starts to travel faster. So positive feedback is like that. Instead of something being held constant, now it's kind of spiraling out of control. But things that, why would we need positive feedback? Well, again, you have some major event. You're trying to cause a major event. So again, clotting cascade, you want to form that clot. Ferguson reflex, you want to cause enough uterine contraction so you deliver that baby. So again, much more in MD4. I will give you a preview. So another example of positive feedback is lactation. So here we have an infant and their mother. So what's happening here is that infant is nursing on the mother's breast. So what that actually does is send signals up to the mother's hypothalamus. The hypothalamus triggers the release of two hormones from the pituitary. These hormones are prolactin and oxytocin. So prolactin promotes the production of milk. Oxytocin promotes the ejection, the reflex that helps to eject milk from the breast. So what happens here is that as you have more production of milk and more release of milk, what happens is that you have increased lactation. So you have increased delivery of milk to the breast and to the infant. So what happens is that the infant has more to feed on, so they can suckle more. As the infant suckles more, that triggers more hypothalamic activity. That triggers the more release of prolactin and oxytocin at the pituitary. So with more milk production due to more prolactin and more milk ejection due to the letdown reflex with more oxytocin, you have even more lactation. So again, the more this infant is breastfeeding, the more milk that's being produced through this positive feedback. So again, more milk, more breastfeeding, more milk. So this is a positive feedback example. So what happens? What is that major? Remember, I told you that positive feedback compared to negative feedback, it's not like a gradual pushback. It typically ends straight with a major event. So how do you stop lactation? Well, what can you just start to wean? Once the infant stops feeding on the breast, stops sending the tactile signals that trigger the hypothalamus to trigger the pituitary. So again, if you're not no longer, the child is no longer nursing, you don't get the signals to the hypothalamus. You don't get the signals and the production of prolactin and oxytocin from the pituitary. Therefore, without the production of milk or the milk ejection reflex, then you don't have lactation. No milk being produced, no milk being secreted. Therefore, this breaks that whole cycle. You don't have milk production anymore.